Have you ever wondered how to build an audience that's more than just numbers? An audience that truly connects with your content and keeps coming back. That's what we're talking about in today's episode. Welcome back to As It Relates to Podcasting. I'm Simona, host of the show, and today we are diving into a topic around podcast growth that I know you're going to want to hear and implement to your podcast right away. Even if you're just getting started, brand new to podcasting, or if you've had your show for a while, I know that there's going to be something in here that you will be able to take and implement to your workflow, to your growth strategy right now. We're going to be talking about laying the groundwork for content growth that is steady, meaningful, and impactful. And with Black Friday around the corner, I'm going to give you a little sneak peek into 2 mini courses that we'll be launching. One is focused on podcast growth, and the other one is focused on podcast monetization. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of today's topic. If you've been looking for meaningful ways to elevate your content to grow into new podcast markets, this episode just might give you the tips that you've been looking for. We're going to start off with one of the most fundamental and basic things that I could say or share with you, which is knowing your audience. And I know you're probably listening to this and you're like, really, Simona, knowing your audience? Everyone says that. Everyone says the exact same thing. But there's a reason why people are saying that. There's a reason why people are sharing that. And there's a reason why people are wanting you to focus on it. When I say knowing your audience, I don't just mean their age and where they live. Although that information can be pretty helpful, can give you some indication into who they are, and can be really helpful if you're doing brand partnerships or monetizing your podcast in a way that requires that type of information. What I really mean here are your audience's interests, their values, what they care about, what keeps them up at night. And most importantly, the reason why they click play on your podcast episodes. What is that thing that keeps them coming back for more? The more specific you get, the easier it is to create content that connects with your audience. Podcast growth really isn't about targeting the masses of people and trying to hit every single people with your show. It's not about targeting that broadest audience. It's about attracting the people who need your content and need your message the most. So start with the basics, but I also want you to dig a little deeper. What challenges are they facing? What are they struggling with? And what solutions does your content provide? Whether that's just an entertainment outlet, something tangible they can take away and implement into their life, or a narrative storytelling type of podcast where they immerse themselves into totally different content and get transported to somewhere, even temporarily. What are they truly passionate about? And then how much can you figure out and learn and know about them? When I first started my Happiness Happens podcast, my intention was to help one person feel less alone. And that intention is still true today. My goal with that show is to always help one person feel less alone. But when I first started the podcast, it was really like a personal journal. It was me exploring different topics and concepts, emotions, conversations, ideas, and theories that related back to happiness. As I continued with the show, as I continued to dive deeper into the show's message, what I started to realize was there's a tangible piece to happiness that I wanted people to be able to explore, to understand about themselves and to learn about themselves in their own journey and their own lives. And then Happiness Happens became a permission slip for people to truly find that joy and that happiness in their life every single day, no matter what is happening outside of them. The root of it all is it's what happens within your own self. When I started to hone in on the specific needs of my listener, everything started to shift. The engagement went up, downloads grew. I started to hear from my listener, from my audience, to hear about the episodes that really resonated with them. And people started sharing their favorite episodes on social media. To learn and to know your audience so well that they will send you messages to tell you how your content made them feel is a huge win as a podcaster. I know it's something that we expect all the time to hear from our listener, but the reality is we don't always get to hear from them. So when people do reach out to us, it's really important to reply back, to continue that conversation, and to help grow in community together. If you're not sure who your core listeners are, you can survey them. So you can create a survey that you can ask them to complete. You can reach out to people who you know listen on social media, and you can ask them about their thoughts around your show. You can even tap into friends and family that you know listen to the content, that actually do enjoy the content religiously and are not just listening because they're your parents or they're your friends or family. And then what you can do with that is start to write down the commonalities, write down the common themes, and write down the things that continue to stick out and stand out in conversations that you have with other people. Then you're going to use that feedback to start shaping your future content, your future episodes, future guests, and future topics. We can gather and gain a lot of data from past episodes that we've created. All we have to do is just to go into the back end of our analytics and see what types of episodes resonated the most with your listener. And then you create more content that's just like that. But the idea here in all of this is that you are creating and crafting content for your ideal listener, for them to continue to consume it, share it out with other people, and therefore hone in deeply on your target audience, on your ideal listener, to amplify the message that you're already sharing. Piece number 2 is setting your growth goals. Once you know who you're creating for, it's time to set goals to amplify and explode that growth even further. But first, let me tell you why having a goal for your show, for your content, for your episode is so important. Having a goal gives you direction, it gives you purpose, and it gives you clarity, especially when there are hundreds and thousands of other things that you could be focusing your time and energy on. Ask yourself what would make you the most successful. Is it a certain download metric? Is it a level of engagement that you don't currently have that you would like? Is it a certain number of sales back in your business? Or is it growing your own community and amplifying that community in a more significant way? Or is it just ranking in your niche and becoming one of the top podcasters in your specific field, in your specific topic? Start with getting clear on what matters most to you and the metric that matters most to you when it comes to this overall growth game. I'm going to throw this in here today, and it's the topic of SMART goals. I'm not someone who lives and dies by SMART goals. I'm not really someone who sets them within my business, within my agency, or within my podcast too much. But I do think it is really important to pull on some of these different elements of SMART goals in the podcasting world, because it can be relevant here too, especially if you are goal-driven, especially if you are metric-driven, okay? So your SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. For example, if you commit to increasing your downloads by 20% in the next 6 months, that gives you clarity around your goal. That gives you a direction in which you want to go. But if you just say, oh, I just want to grow my podcast downloads to 10,000, that's a goal, but it's not specific, and it doesn't give you a clear path forward in what you want to continue to achieve with your show. So it's really important to pull some of these elements of SMART goals to make your goals very clear and to make the direction in which you're going even clearer, right? Because if you say you're going to increase your downloads by 20%, the likelihood is that you're going to take your podcast and you're going to go ahead and promote it more. You're going to write newsletters about it. You're going to focus in on the SEO, and you're going to dive into different strategies that will help you reach and achieve that goal. So when you have something that you can measure, something that is specific and something that is time-bound, then you can do all of the other things that you want to do, but you need to get clear first. Coming up on Black Friday in the podcast growth course, I will have a goal setting worksheet that will help you structure and track your goals, which is really, really, really important. It's designed to keep you structured and keep you on track even when life gets busy. All right, let's get into the third section here. And this is creating content that will help you continue to grow, aka content that helps you engage and retain. Knowing your audience and setting those clear goals are critical first steps. But without having engaging content, your growth will eventually stall. The biggest thing that I see with new podcasters or even existing podcasters is they're creating their content on a weekly basis, but it's never getting promoted. It's not getting put or placed in front of the right audience. It's not being shared in an existing newsletter or created social media content around it. There's just no push to take the show on the RSS feed or on your YouTube channel and push it in front of other people. Your content and the content that you create is a really big piece of what helps your listener come back and bring new people in, develop a new awareness around your show. So the content that you create is actually really, really, really important. You can totally have a podcast and not promote it on social media, or you can have a podcast and you can promote it on one specific platform that you know your target audience is listening on. Or you can take that one episode and you can publish it or share about it in your newsletter or your Substack. Whatever the medium is that you are sharing your content through is really important. So I really urge you, and I'm suggesting and recommending to you, to create content around the episodes that you're already creating. You want to make sure that you are creating value-driven content, So what is it that your audience or your listener will take away from each episode? Are they learning something new? Are they feeling inspired? The clearer you are on what value you're delivering, the easier it is for your audience to connect with it. The next thing is consistency and quality. Consistency doesn't just mean uploading something on time. It also means maintaining a standard that your listener can rely on. They'll come back time and time again because they know they can count on the quality and the learning that only you can provide. That's pretty powerful. Next is experimenting with different formats. Don't be shy to experiment and try something new. Don't be shy to step outside of the box and get creative and put your creativity to good use with the way in which you craft, create, and launch and publish your content. Think about guest episodes, solos, Q&As, or even mini-series. By exploring with different formats, you're exploring different ways that your content can be consumed by your audience, meet them in a new way, and explore more of what they love the most. This will allow you to continue to refine and to elevate your content. And of course, I have to tease this again here in the podcast growth kit. There's an entire section that is committed and dedicated to crafting content that not only attracts new listeners, but also keeps them engaged and coming back for more. Now, these are 3 very simple ways that you can start to amplify the growth of your own podcast. And yes, maybe in some ways you have heard these tips before, but I cannot stress how important it is to make sure that you know exactly who you are targeting, setting yourself some goals that are actually realistic that you can measure. But not only that, creating content that people want to consume. Do a little self-audit, which is another thing we're going to be talking about in the podcast growth kit. Do yourself a favor and analyze it from a different perspective. Get clear on what you're wanting to create and how does your audience benefit from the episodes and the content that you're putting out. The podcast growth kit is going to dig into all these foundational elements, especially when it comes to audience understanding, goal setting, creating content, doing those strategy reviews, and doing a little bit of a self-audit. These are the things that make the biggest difference when it comes to growing by chance versus growing by design. But we will share more of that when it's available in a few weeks. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's conversation. Please let me know which strategy you implement today and let me know anything we can do to help you on your podcast launch, growth, or monetization journey. We have a free Discord community that we have just launched a few weeks ago that is super fun, super buzzing with activity, lots of creators and lots of podcasters in there that you will absolutely be able to learn from, lean on, exchange ideas with. So cannot wait to welcome you in there. Let me know what you think of this. Give us a thumbs up if you're watching this on YouTube. Hit that follow button wherever you're listening to this episode. And I am so excited to see you again in the next one.